Have you ever wondered what happens when a king's command is ignored? In the mighty kingdom of Persia, such a thing was unheard of. No one dared to say no to the powerful King Xerxes, who ruled over 127 provinces, from India to Ethiopia. His word was law, and he could do whatever he pleased. But one day, a shocking event took place. Someone very close to him, refused to obey his command. It all started with a grand feast that lasted 180 days. Yes, you heard that right. 6 whole months of celebration. Xerxes wanted to show off his wealth, power, and everything he owned. To top it all off, he held another banquet for 7 days in the capital city of Susa, inviting everyone to join the party. Now imagine this. The king, surrounded by his officials, soldiers, and nobles, calls for his queen, Vashti. He wanted her to come before the guests and display her beauty, for she was very lovely. But something happened that no one expected. Queen Vashti refused to come. The guests gasped, and silence filled the hall. What would the king do now? Could he allow such disobedience? King Xerxes was furious. His pride was wounded, and his advisors feared that if word spread of the queen's defiance, other women in the kingdom might follow her example. After consulting with his wise men, the decision was made. Queen Vashti would no longer be queen, and a new queen would be chosen. But finding a queen wasn't as simple as just picking one from the crowd. The king's advisors suggested that all the beautiful young women in the land should be gathered, and from them, the king would choose the one who pleased him most. Word spread quickly, and soon, young women from every corner of the kingdom were brought to the palace. Among them was a young Jewish woman named Esther. Esther was no ordinary girl. She had been raised by her cousin Mordecai, for she had lost both her parents when she was very young. Mordecai, who loved Esther dearly, taught her to trust in God and be wise in all she did. Esther was kind, humble, and beautiful, both inside and out. But despite her beauty, she had never imagined she would be chosen to meet the king, let alone become queen. Esther was taken to the palace along with many other young women. Before she could see the king, she had to go through a long period of preparation, an entire year of beauty treatments. But Esther didn't ask for any special treatment or gifts. She simply did as she was told, trusting that God had a plan for her, even though she didn't know what it was. When the time came for Esther to meet King Xerxes, she didn't rely on fancy clothes or expensive jewels to impress him. Instead, she trusted in God and remained herself. And something amazing happened. King Xerxes was immediately captivated by Esther. Out of all the young women in the kingdom, Esther found favor in the king's eyes. He placed the royal crown on her head and declared her queen of Persia. But even as Esther became queen, she kept a secret hidden deep within her heart. She had not told anyone that she was Jewish, just as Mordecai had instructed her. She continued to trust in God, knowing that her journey was far from over. Meanwhile, Mordecai stayed close to the palace, keeping an eye on Esther from a distance. One day, while sitting at the king's gate, Mordecai overheard 2 of the king's officials plotting to harm King Xerxes. Without hesitation, he passed the information to Esther, who warned the king. The plot was uncovered, and the king's life was saved. Mordecai's name was written in the royal records, but at the time, no reward was given to him. Little did anyone know that this act of loyalty would later play a key role in God's plan. Moral lessons. 1. God's plans are greater than our fears. Esther had no idea what would happen when she was taken to the palace. She didn't know if she would be chosen as queen or if her life would change for the better. But she trusted in God's plan. Like Esther, we must remember that even when we face uncertainty, God has a plan for our lives, and his plans are always good. 2. Obedience leads to blessings. Esther listened to Mordecai's wisdom and followed the instructions given to her in the palace. She didn't try to force her own way or seek attention. Instead, she was obedient and trusted in God. Her obedience led to her becoming queen. In life, obedience to God's word leads to his blessings, even when we don't fully understand his ways. 3. God uses ordinary people for extraordinary purposes. Esther was a young woman from a humble background. She had lost her parents and was raised by her cousin. But God chose her to be queen of one of the greatest empires in history. This teaches us that God doesn't need us to be perfect or powerful. He can use anyone who trusts in him to do extraordinary things. Like Esther, are you ready to trust God's plan for your life, even when things seem uncertain? Remember, God has a purpose for you, and he will guide you every step of the way. Be humble, be obedient, and believe that God can use you in incredible ways. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel to learn more powerful lessons from the Bible.